When it comes to preparing for a job interview, have you heard of the STAR method? It's an interview technique that serves as a great template for how to approach and answer behavioral-based interview questions. It stands for situation, task, action, and result. Basically, you describe the background, the problem you faced, what you did to solve that problem, and the outcome. Now, I found this to be a pretty good way to approach interview questions. It really helps you give a thorough explanation to whatever you're trying to describe, but I also think it's a pretty good way to approach life in general, especially because of the first and last steps. Situation and result, background and outcome, or in other words, context and closure. I think both of these elements are underrated, but super important when it comes to understanding the world, or when it comes to helping others understand your world. For example, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you didn't know the backstory and didn't really understand what was going on? Maybe someone was acting a certain way, which seemed kind of weird to you, but you didn't understand why. But as soon as you learned the background, the context behind everything, it clicked. Things made sense. Now you understood why things were happening the way they were. I think the significance of context is often overlooked. Context is so important. It sets the background and shapes the meaning behind a message. If you don't know the context behind something, the message will likely come across differently than it was intended to. Or if it's taken out of context, it may change completely. If someone is interviewed and they say one negative thing and 9 positive things, and only the one negative thing is aired, everyone will think the entire interview was negative. Without proper and full context, you can't truly understand a situation. Context also determines where something falls on the scale of favorability. Let's say you made $1 million this year. Is that good? In most situations, yes, of course. But context matters. Is that good compared to what? What if you had expected to make $10 million this year? Or what if you ended up losing more important things in the process? Maybe you wouldn't view it as being good in those situations. Context allows you to look at something relative to something else. It allows you to look at something, but also see the background behind it. I have one friend in particular who is a self-proclaimed fan of context. He understands and appreciates context for what it is. If we're ever in a group and some people are talking about something that the other people weren't there for, he will always go out of his way to explain what happened. He will provide the background and the context, just so they have a better understanding of what's being talked about. It's something that I've always appreciated about him. So I think it's important to do this as well. Provide the context, outline the situation, give the background and the backstory. Doing this will help ensure that you're conveying your messages the way you want them to be conveyed. You'll make it easier for people to understand you. And people always appreciate when you make things easier for them. So that's context. The background, the situation, but equally as important is the result, the outcome of what happened, the point of what everything was, closure and understanding. Similar to context, I feel like closure is also something that's often overlooked. Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't get closure? Maybe things just ended abruptly. Maybe you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to something or someone important to you. Maybe things closed on bad terms and that's how they've remained to this day. Those situations are difficult to process. It's not easy to move on from something when you don't have closure. There's still uncertainty. There's still a lot of what ifs. Things do not feel resolved, but maybe you've been in a situation where you did get closure. It may not have come right away. It may have come after a long time, but it still made such a difference. If you've experienced this, you'll know how healing it is for your soul. It can feel like a weight you've been carrying all this time has finally been lifted off your shoulders. It might finally provide that freedom that you didn't know you needed. It may allow you to close the door on what's behind you and to move on, move forward. You're no longer carrying the burden you were before. Things have been resolved. Now, obviously not everything in life will require this degree of closure, but the other way I like to think about it is in terms of tying everything together at the end. Why was this important? What was the point of this? Sometimes people will tell you things and you won't necessarily know why they're telling you. Usually, there's a point to their story, but if they don't communicate that point, then similarly to if they don't provide the context, you won't understand the full meaning of what they're trying to say. Closure confirms that point. Having closure is being able to see the full result of something, being able to understand and accept the outcome, being able to see how everything is connected, being able to see how everything is tied together. And this is important in a lot of different ways. If you're answering an interview question, sharing the result confirms whether your actions were effective or not. If you don't provide closure, people may not understand what the point of everything was. Tying everything together at the end fully wraps up the message you're trying to convey. So, going forward, I hope you'll consider the significance of both these elements elements when you have something to say or share. Be sure to outline the situation as well as the result, the background as well as the outcome, the context as well as the closure. This will go a long way in making sure your message is understood the way you want it to be. Anyway, that's it for today. If you found this insightful, your thumbs up is appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos on personal development and self-improvement. And let me know in the comments if context or closure ever made a difference in your life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.